My name's Stephen Green from SGC Media. We work with a variety of independent record labels and artists on their marketing campaigns, so dealing with radio, television, online and print media. We deal with strategy, we deal with social media, we deal with everything to do with essentially getting people's music out there and getting it heard and hopefully starting a fire of people that are going to love it. I started in the industry 15 years ago, maybe a little bit longer if you count working in a record store in high school, which was an amazing experience and still one of the things that I hark back to when I'm thinking about how people relate to music. I wrote for Street Press. I wrote a column for some local non-music newspapers about music. Essentially, I immersed myself in whatever jobs that I could find that had music related to them. I guess even with the working in a record store, I decided that was what I was going to do and turned down every job that I got until I got that one job. Turned up on their doorstep at every Thursday night for about 3 or 4 months until they finally said, for Christ's sake, get rid of that ugly T-shirt and put this Triple J one on so you look at least half cool and have a crack at this. So so moved through all that stuff that I guess people do in the early stages of their career. Then eventually got a job doing being national marketing manager for a local independent record company, which at the time I didn't ask why they would give it to someone who had no experience whatsoever. But it was an amazing learning experience, and ended up picking up a side job producing an in-flight entertainment program for Canadian Airlines, which came out of nowhere. Essentially, I'd emailed somebody in Canada about licensing some music for the label that I was the marketing manager of, and they got an email from the airline at the same time wondering if they knew anyone in Asia who had experience in producing in-flight entertainment. And so the person at the other end went, "Oh, Australia, that's in Asia," and hooked us up. And I pretended I knew what I was doing and took the job. Did that for a couple of years, and eventually the record label that I was working for went bust. And luckily the job from Canadian Airlines kept me going for in a very small way anyway, for a couple of months while I found my feet. I started doing some independent plugging and publicity for some of the artists that I'd been working with at the label. And had decided that music industry probably wasn't for me, so I was going to go back to uni when all that finished and finish my journalism degree. That never happened. I ended up really enjoying working with independent bands on their publicity, and by the time it was time to get back to university, I was making enough to at least pay my parents' phone bill and avoid the question of what I was really going to do with my life. Started Australian Music Biz, which was my first PR company, and did a whole lot of local bands and things like that. Managed to pick up a contract with a new local band called The Butterfly Effect, which had just kicked off. That was probably the first, certainly wasn't the first project we'd done, but it was the first project that really started flying. And from that point on, we never really had a problem with getting clients, and before you knew it, I had 4 employees and an office in Melbourne, and we were doing reasonably well. I got bored though after about 8 years, and sold that company and started once again decided that the music industry probably wasn't for me, and I should get out of that. That lasted 1 week this time, before I got sucked back into program BIGSOUND for a couple of years and work at Q Music, and also started working for a Sydney company that was kicking off a system to deliver promotional music for major labels to radio stations around the country. We started that from scratch, and within 18 months we had every major label in the country using it, and I essentially made myself redundant again. So that was great fun. Was good, sort of, once again, a different thing that was, once again, music related, that kind of made for an interesting time, and for broadening a skill set that is kind of hard to develop. Eventually, the bug for promoting independent music kind of came back again. I don't know why, it just keeps biting me on the arse every time I try to get out. But yeah, started SGC Media. That was probably about 4 years ago now, and I've been building that business once again. Started from the ground up again, and back to the stage where there's 4 of us that work in the business. We're working with some labels like Chug Music and Ambition, Skinny Fish Music, and working for artists like Gurrumul and Sheppard and Russell Morris and Marsha Hines and Sticky Fingers and heaps of other bands. So it's it's kind of cool. I've managed to have a pretty good career so far, where I've been able to work with lots of really good people and for a lot of really good people, but still kind of run my own race and do things when I wanted to do them, It's easy to say that. There was also a lot of times where I had to do lots of stuff that I didn't want to do when I didn't want to do it. But yeah, it's kind of good. Music's a good industry like that, in that, while there's the downside of not masses of security, you do get the flexibility to work on stuff that you're passionate about and have a lot of fun.